have Aaron Rawls now. I know we talk about you on our show a lot. Do you ever listen in? Try not to.
No, it's not because I'm a hater. I don't have any time to watch TV. Yeah, but now when people send me clips, I watch them all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. LC and you and Tammy are the talk of the town. Do you feel that?
Yeah. So when I was out this weekend walking my dogs, going through Uptown, I went to a dog park in the county. I mean, I get yanked out of the street or people come over. The weirdest thing is having people come by me on a bike, stop their bike, come back to me and come and ask to shake my hand.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So yeah, we've had a very nice reception. I suppose LC's probably felt the same.
Good.
Yeah.
How's it been? I mean, has it been what you thought it would be like?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew it would take a high energy person. I knew that there were going to be tons of things that weren't fun. I knew that for us to solve the problems that we need to solve, someone is going to have to take some accountability and, have some hardship tossed our way. And
right.
I've been ready for that. The hardest part of this, to be honest, is not something someone would think. It's having to disregard good advice from more experienced, more qualified people than yourself. Sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
And so what I'm talking about, people who are practiced, successful people in this space, and they give you advice. And
do you listen?
I do listen, but sometimes, for instance, there's advice to kind of be go along, get along, and people want to see their local government function as a single unit, no kind of discord. And if I were trying to be the world's best councilman, I would take that advice and run with it because it's good advice. The problem is, I agree that that's a good thing to go for, but I just don't think it's the councilman Martinsville needs right now. I think we know things have been off track, and we need some people, and LC's doing this too, who step up and say, well, actually, excuse me, but no, this is not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I have to admit, I've enjoyed covering city council for the last year. Sometimes even when it's going on off the rails. But I can't wait till next Tuesday night. Now, the bombshell that didn't get talked about a lot, to me, was Kathy Lawson calling you a dictator.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you get where she was coming from a little bit?
No, not really. I'm not sure she's super familiar with the Virginia Code or the city charter.
Right. I mean, I think she was saying y'all handpicked these folks and we didn't have any say in it.
Yeah, well, handpick's a bit strong. There were people who reached out to us. But if you read the charter, council can set up boards or commissions as they see fit. And that doesn't mean licensed to be megalomaniacs about everything, but in this case we had an absolute emergency.
Right.
I think most people agree with that. You heard the people speaking there. Yeah. This is a big deal.
Right.
We had people we're talking about people in leadership level too. Social services, nursing, therapy. So we already had people who were like, we see this, we're familiar with the players in the space, we can tell you what's going wrong, what can we do? And so when you get 5 or 6 of those, you're like, geez, okay, let's put this thing together so you can address the full council.
Is it going to come up again Tuesday night?
Yeah, we're going to nominate people.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Kathy and Chad going to get a chance too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Pay attention to who they
nominate. How does that work? Y'all put people on the table and you vote each one of them? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so I think you begin in closed session, which is allowed in closed session. We can all get our people out there and work it out.
Right.
They can nominate whomever they want.
Right.
Mr. Martin has thrown out a few names. Might want to just pencil down what those were and pay attention to the news coming up.
Right. But what did you think of Big All a Dictator?
Hey.
Went off your back?
Yeah. We've got bigger things to worry about in Martinsville. I'm trying to solve problems, and you've got to be prepped for the flat.
But I'm surprised it hadn't made a headline yet. But one of the things you've been talking about is how we look to the outside.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if did you cover the Chamber of Commerce forum?
Yeah.
And I'd mentioned that for Martinsville, for a minute, we're going to have a night as darkest before the dawn situation. Okay. It's always going to be that way.
All right.
Not always, I'm sorry. It's always going to be that way anytime that you're kind of rooting out something that's really deeply entrenched and frankly off base. And so it's going to be hard for people to have their beliefs challenged, their comforts challenged. So we knew it was going to be hard. I guess what I'd ask the people of Martinsville to do is just look for the sincerity in people who are representing you and see if you can spot it. And I think most people will be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's another surprise. I thought Chad Martin had one of his best council meetings. But he wasn't quoting people. He was hailing you guys.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was a big change.
Yeah.
That Chad Martin actually, he was putting up a resistance, but an adult resistance.
Yeah.
Saying, are you guys sure about this?
It's a shame you have to call that out as adult resistance. But Hey, progress is progress.
Okay. I mean, that's one thing I noticed about Chad is that he really looked like he didn't look like he was happy with you guys.
Yeah.
But he looked like he was trying to talk to your head a little bit.
Yeah, I can just tell you from a doer's perspective, it's good to get feedback, and you don't. I believe in conflict. I really do. I think it's through conflict you forge better solutions.
Well, Lincoln believed that, didn't he? Lincoln?
All sorts of people do.
Right.
You pick the person that you like. You'll find somewhere in their philosophy, assuming they've been a statesman or in any type of government.
Right.
They'll all have some form of that. So for me, it's cool with me if someone wants to have different opinions or even make little quips like that. If they're sincere, I can hear them and weigh them in. Sometimes they're straight up not sincere, and there's no reason for me to spend 2 seconds thinking about it, and I haven't thought about that since.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let me tell you, because I think you got thick skin. It's what some people are saying. It's like LC couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
It was so much going on.
Yeah, I noticed that. In my defense, that was kind of a tailor-made meeting for me. And what I mean by that, I don't mean we picked agenda items.
So you're not going to be like that every meeting?
No. Yeah. So the next meeting will be very different. We picked a couple issues that I have researched probably to an extent no other human being ever has. Yeah. That's one, the reversion thing. I mean, I can quote you the Virginia Code, the articles, the sections of things we researched. So when it came to preparing either points or counterpoints to some of the things through the meeting, I was just the guy who was the most researched on those things. But I just left a meeting with LC where LC did most of the talking. And we had met after that meeting, and I'd let LC and Tammy know very briefly walking out. I was like, guys, I know I talked a ton during that thing, but I hope you're going to be ready to carry me on a lot of the things that are coming up where they've got more knowledge than I do. And that's a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the homeless issue. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. That's the big topic right now.
Yeah.
And you've kind of made it the big topic.
Yeah. Well, I've been on that for a long time, as you know.
Right. When did you, let's go back on a timeline with you. When did you first see that beginning to be a problem?
May or June. And I'll tell you how I knew.
Of last year. Yeah.
No, this year. This year. No, I'm sorry, last year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
May or June. Okay.
Most recent May or June.
Right.
And the reason I know is I live uptown, walk my dogs uptown, generally 3 to 4 hours a day on the streets of uptown. And I just started noticing new people who I think we're putting everything into a bucket that we're labeling homeless, but I don't think they're all homeless. I think people are kind of doing a general look or feel of someone, and they're saying that looks like what a homeless person might look like.
Right.
So when we say that, I just want to be clear, we're talking about probably people of several different groups that look alike. But yeah, so I just started walking around seeing many new people. And I'm new enough here, having been here 11 years. I remember when I moved here, I was a borderline celebrity. I was in my 20s. I was from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Anytime I went anywhere, people wanted to meet me and figure out, why did I come here? How did I pick Martinsville? All of that sort of stuff. So I'm attuned to that, and I just left a meeting with LC, and there were some people who work in the Fidelity Bank there, and they were saying, the exact same things I'm saying right now. And you'll hear this if you go talk to anyone in Uptown. There's a lot of new faces, and they come and go is the weirdest thing. And this is why investigating it's been kind of slow. So starting around May or June, you start to get maybe 10 people, and they're there for about a month, and then they leave, and then it's a new 10, then they leave, and then it's a new 10. Not until maybe October, November did this really start ramping up where the 10 would stay, and then it would expand.
Okay.
And it was people that, and if you haven't interviewed, maybe I might reach out to like Martinsville Police and people like that, so you can get some really hard data.
Right.
I've done that. I've got a ton of interviews. I've got some names.
Well, Holly's the bulletin. She's been interviewing people.
So it's a significant number of people from outside of Martinsville. And that's not a xenophobic thing. That's not to say, well, you're not from here and we can't help you. I think the concern I've got is, remember, I'm trying to kind of bring some life to Martinsville with our council. So if we are going to be the drop-off point for significantly larger localities like Danville, Franklin, even Henry's 3 times our population, Roanoke, we need to have a really serious conversation about what the impact is going to be for us in the city. It's going to be rough, very rough.
Right.
Yep.
Bulletin story first featured the peer recovery folks, and that seemed like that became like this epicenter.
Yeah, that was the introduction to the story, and I suspect this story will be ongoing.
All right, now I'm going to ask you. We know Tim Hall rented that building out to them. Did you ask him?
Tim Martin.
I'm sorry, Tim Martin. Yeah, Tim Martin. Did you ask him to close that down?
No. He had been wanting to. Here's the story I got.
All right.
Verify this as media, but I've got it from 2 different sources.
Okay.
When they moved in there, I've got it from 3 actually.
But everybody, some of the rumors is Aaron forced it.
No. No, actually
Yeah.
quite the opposite, but
Okay.
we'll come back to that.
All right.
Well, maybe not quite the opposite, but somewhat opposite. When they were looking at that building, they were told from someone in the social services space. I talked to her in private, so I don't know if she wants me to use her name.
Okay.
She recommended to them that that was a bad spot and to use it only for offices. So you put that in a bucket for a second. And then when peer recovery went to Tim, they said they'd be using it just for offices.
Okay.
So when it ended up, and they were there for I think like a year before there was ever a problem.
Right.
So they were clearly doing something right there for a long time.
Right.
Then around June, again, of this coming year, all of a sudden you start getting the crowds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up having, Tim cares a I about Uptown.
We got a picture, and I got to credit the Martinsville Bulletin. This has become kind of a famous picture. It's on our lineup there, Jonathan. This is a picture that shows some people hanging around. This was in a newspaper article. I think Bill Wyatt or Holly then worked this, but it's a Martinsville Bulletin picture. I want people to know that.
Yeah,
but this kind of got the talk really going.
This is a very light crowd. I've got some
Yeah.
on my phone of 20 people.
But it does tell a story. It does.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, so going back to Tim.
Yeah.
Tim is incredibly protective of.
This is the
Uptown.
place we're talking about.
Yep. Peer recovery. It's a commercial business district. It's zoned that way, and it's also the place where we're trying to draw developers because every building we can develop brings Martinsville a step closer to being
That
revitalized.
we haven't been able to do.
We have not been able to do, and this doesn't help. And we've had
Right.
developers tell us that point blank.
Right.
So I think Tim started having conversations with them, and Tim's the sort of guy. I've come to know him pretty well. I bought a lot of furniture from him.
Right.
He's not going to get hot at you until you've repeatedly not been forthright with him. And I think that kind of grew to the point where he was like, you know what?
All right.
Over a series of months, he did what he could do.
They're moving to the old DMV building. Is that right?
I do not know that for sure. I've heard that.
That's what Miss Berger told me. But she says she's having some resistance now because of all the media.
Yeah, so I had a guy pull me off the street, so I was walking by Cornerstone and say he called the, I guess the owner of that building or co-owner or something.
Right.
And I called him after that, and I was like, hey, I want to talk to you too. And I'd let him know that I'm actually not calling for the purpose you probably think, which is to forbid you from renting from anybody.
Right.
I want you to be aware of what's going on in Uptown and make sure you have some sort of agreement in place that if you're going to have someone in that spot, that what's happening now doesn't repeat itself.
Okay.
If that repeats itself, I mean, I'm going to bring the pain in any which way I can. It's not the place.
Going to bring the pain in. I got to quote you on that.
It's not the place to have 20 people with that service.
So what do you think of that location? Point blank.
It's still in Uptown. So if they're going to do it for the proper intent,
Right.
and it's managed well,
Right.
no worries.
On Star News Facebook, we broke today that the executive director of the peer recovery, resigned.
Yeah, I'd heard that too.
Yeah. How you feel about that?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Right. This is the quote we pretty much got. Is like he didn't want to. First of all, Mary Kay Berger told me that they cannot really deal with homeless people, even though it does from time to time. She said that's not. They can lose their license over that.
All right, so let me step out of my council role and be a citizen.
All right.
I've talked to Mary Kay a lot.
Right.
I've heard that she is sincere. I'm having a tough time reconciling that it's supposed to be about recovery and not homelessness and so forth, because I mean we've all gone by there, and at this point we've got.
Well, she even admitted that the director probably went overboard.
Okay.
She did say that.
I'm glad someone's admitting that. Well, let's just say we've had conversations with people in that group before, and we've gotten the what, who, us? We would never routine. And
okay, but she said he maybe overdid it, and he said he wanted to step out of it.
Here's kind of the thing: is it should have never been done there, and this is the thing that's really frustrating is. Every city is going to reckon with this. You brought this up to me previously. There's a right way of doing things and a wrong way. Your Uptown commercial business district, it is zoned for business.
Yeah.
That's not cool to just drop that there and have no regard whatsoever. And when I say no regard, I don't mean it's just that they didn't think about it. I mean, people have come up to them and been like, guys, this is not okay. Guys, our customers feel upset. Guys, one of your clients chased our guest and her mom or her daughter or whatever it was.
We heard the story. Yeah.
Like, you've got to listen to that at some point. And the response from this, and I've had several interactions with Keith, is like immediate smart aleck mode. And so, I mean, I know he's turned that on to, I'll let you ask for yourself, but you can go to some leadership in Martinsville Police, you can go to property owners, you can go to business owners. People who've tried to deal with that individual have basically had a middle finger put back up in their faces.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not to pick on the dude. I'm just telling you that it's not like this was something that erupted and everyone's being mean at one particular group. It's like people have tried to be subtle.
Well, I see them trying to make you look mean.
That's okay. Well, I'm going to have to eat some of that in the public space, and I'm
Right.
all right with that.
Right.
Well, I think people in that space too have learned.
It can't
that,
feel comfortable though, could it?
No, I mean you have some rough days, but
Yeah.
you sign up for it. I'm mentally prepped.
Okay.
You have some rough days, but I
Please
think
hold.
that some of the people in that space have realized some of the things they've been told weren't accurate, and they've since come back to me. So I've actually had a lot of people from that space coming to me, and I want to make clear for them right now, if they're offended by any of this, I'm not. If you're one of the people who's been contacting me in good faith recently, I'm not talking about you. If you got caught up in something, or you didn't know this was happening, or the extent to which it was happening, it's all good. I'm not
Right.
trying to come after anybody. I just wanted that thing solved. And if someone would have just been honest with us and been like, oh yes, well actually there are a lot of new people here and they're not from Martinsville, and here's how they got here. If I could have gotten all that data, been a lot different how
Right.
this played out.
The bus that's on their Facebook article, is that the one that was picking the homeless up?
Some. Well, oh wait, I don't know about that.
Okay.
That's the one that I saw Keith
This one?
driving. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is that the one y'all had the contact?
Yes.
They say you banged on the window or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess a knock.
Right.
I mean, I was hot.
You were upset? What were you upset about?
So this was Saturday at 9:40 a.m. Probably good context. Warming Center has a van. That wasn't it.
Okay.
And it wasn't their drop-off time. And I just stayed, the council meeting before, I'd stayed with some couple businesses on Main Street. And they were telling me about,
Hold on.
we saw these two drop-offs of buses of people on a Sunday. And so I was like, okay, I'll look into it. I'll keep my eyes open. And so I see this thing pull up, and I have no idea like what it is. Like the drop-off time isn't right. There's no logo or anything on the bus.
Right.
So I run up there and I like absolutely run. It's already unloaded, by the way. So
Right.
I'm passing people going to the libraries. Had a quick joke with the girl who asked about my dogs, and I'm coming up there and I'm running up there with my camera trying to get photos of the license because
Right.
aha, I found the people who were being reported to us finally.
Right.
And then so I went and got on the window so I could get a photo of the driver.
Right.
And started recording.
Right.
And it was Keith. And
You went Star News on them?
Huh?
You went-
Well, but when I saw it was Keith, I stopped recording because like,
Okay.
oh, I know who this is.
Okay.
And my opening remark to him was like, what are you doing?
Right.
Because it was like 9:40 right across from the church in the library, and it's like 15 to 20 people just like flow out. And I'm just like, what on earth is happening here?
Right.
And so I learned a lot. I was not fully informed at that time, of
Right.
course. Like that the I guess the drop-off times can change, and maybe
Right.
they do a different mode of transportation.
Did you overreact?
sometimes. I don't know. At first, I spent my whole Saturday feeling horrible, and I was like,
Okay.
"Did I?" But then I reflected on that, and I just thought about. I put all the pieces together over time, and I'm like, if I hadn't done that, would I have been doing my job?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything like I think some people made it out to be, and I think some of the social media posts have since been deleted because they
Okay.
weren't accurate.
Right.
And it chilled out like after my first, like, what are you
Right.
doing? Whatever you're doing here, this isn't the right way for this to be done. We need to figure this out.
Right.
And where that conversation kind of went is, I was like, can you help me figure out how we're attracting folks to a city where we have no infrastructure for these services?
Right.
There's nothing to advertise. There's no way some professional organization is pulling up a list of service providers and saying, Martinsville, there we go. So I'd ask sincerely, like, what we're doing here is not the right way of doing this. Can you help me figure out what's going on so we can do this the right way? And I got a smart aleck response right out of the gate. And so I was like, okay, the conversation's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I do like about you, Aaron, is that you are. I mean, the passion is there, and some people see it as not genuine, but I see it as genuine. And
That one I have not heard before.
well, I mean, it's my
Yeah.
callers. My callers will say they just don't trust you, and
Oh.
especially sarcastic man, he'll call in and say, he's not nice about it all the time either. But I think you're learning as you go here a little bit. I mean, this is new ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me go to some calls real quick, and you got to be nice, people. Hello. Yeah. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll be nice. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
All right. What's your question for Aaron?
Well, it's more of a comment, Charles. I just wanted to tell him, it's only been a meeting or so, and for all the naysayers, I took up for you, Mr. Rawls, and I said, let's give this man and the new mayor, Mr. Jones, a chance. If it's only been a meeting or so, we got to give him a chance because, in my mind, what's good for the city is good for the county. Whether I'm right or wrong, I think I'm right because what's good for both and what's good for the county is good for the city. So I I wish people would just sit back, relax, calm down, take a chill pill, give you and the mayor a chance. I think y'all are excited, especially you. I see the excitement.
Let me ask you, caller, have you seen leadership like this in our community? Because I haven't.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
I mean, I don't think I can think of a representative that cares enough to go bang on the door.
Exactly.
It was,
Yeah.
Well, I asked the people of the city to give them a chance, you know, and I think everything will be all right.
All right, well, let's take another call. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Charles.
Yes, this is Trump girl.
Hi, Trump girl.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Aaron, first I want to congratulate you for winning. Lord knows I really talked you up to everybody I could talk to around.
Thank you.
I'm just so proud that Martinsville's got somebody like you here.
Thank you.
God bless us all, because you'll help us.
All right, I want to get my producer to put the other callers on hold. Go ahead, Trump girl.
Okay. The question I had, you may have already answered, and if you have, I apologize. But I've not heard of any problems about the people that don't have anywhere to live and how they're sort of getting in front of businesses and bothering them and all. And my question, Aaron, because I know how the government's been doing with all the refugees and busing them off and flying them off to everywhere in the states. And I know Governor Youngkin already said we were getting some. Do you think that these people are refugees or are they locals?
Where your investigation, where they're coming from?
No, and I want to be really careful about this because there is an investigation. I think there's state people on it now.
Okay.
Let me say the interviews I've personally done, I don't think there's any sort of like federal deal or anything like that to bring people here. I also know it's not all local. There's a lot of New York, Danville, Franklin, Roanoke. I think that the mayor had one of the best suggestions, which is I think a lot of people are kind of converging in a Danville or a Roanoke and then somehow seeking services. I don't know how they're finding them or being recruited for services to come to Martinsville is what I feel it is. So I hate to
profit driven.
I hate to say it, but I don't think it's a huge secret at this point. This area's got quite a long legacy of this. I do think it's kind of a money deal.
Right. Now, one thing I noticed you with the Epic guy, he asked if you could meet with you privately, and you said no. I heard you say that.
That wasn't because I didn't want to talk with him. I will give anyone my time as a council person.
Right.
Because of the work I've been doing, I can't talk to him. Yeah.
Could you talk with him with maybe a city official or no?
I just don't want to mess anything up. I could talk with him about any other issue. That's not to indicate he's guilty of anything. I'm just saying when you do interviews with people and someone says I was brought here by so and so and so and so, and then what I don't want to do is start getting involved in a conversation where I accidentally disclose something that may or may not tip someone off. And so it's not just him. There are other people in the space, even some who I think are very well-meaning, who I'm letting them know, like, hey, I got to keep my distance for a minute because I can't be the guy who ruins the hard work of our investigators and our police.
Well, that's got my curiosity up a little bit.
It's not that exciting. There's some manner of fraud and criminal activity going on here. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
It's the who
Aaron,
and the extent. Yes.
May I ask you something else?
Sure, of course.
Okay. If they're not the refugees being sent over by the government, where did all these people come from all of a sudden? And what is the attraction in Martinsville? Which, I mean, Lord, I know I'm proud of Martinsville. I live here.
All right, one of the things is people can profit. People can actually profit from homeless people. That's what I mean with the government funding and so forth as ways to profit.
We're talking about humongous money.
Yeah.
Incomprehensible money.
Right.
The way that this works, I do not know about this case, but I know a lot about this space. You have things that are referred to essentially as recruiters who will go out and find people on the street who look to be homeless, who look like it. And they'll say, hey, do you need help? Do you need services? What this kind of morphs into, and there's kind of a long legacy in Martinsville of this sort of behavior is, hey, do you want to come work with us? You come sign up for all of our stuff and we will get you a meal and a new pair of shoes. Yeah. We'll drive you around and buy you cigarettes. Right. That sort of thing's been going on for a long time. If you were to go grab your camera and go interview people in the social services space, you'd want to ask them about skill building. Skill building is typically what that falls under. It can provide a very good value, but people who are sincere in this space have come to loathe that term because what it is it's big money for players.
What's that word again?
Skill building.
One word. Cool.
Well, who's telling all these homeless to come here?
Well, I think what's happening, this is theory. I know some facts, but I can't talk about those. I do think what's happening is somewhere, somehow, something we've got here got advertised, and then I think there's no surprise that we've had a number of organizations move in here. And that could be because maybe they saw a growing need. That could be because maybe they saw it as a space that's easy to operate in without a lot of oversight.
You know, we got a history of bad opioid use.
Yep.
So that brings them in here.
Oh, it was probably Buzz Talk, honey. Charles is such a good guy. Talking about our city, he probably got them all coming.
we do want people to move here. That's the irony, right?
Okay,
is that we really do want to grow the area, but some of these folks, you read the story, some of them, I don't think they knew they were getting brought here.
Right.
They didn't know anyone. They had no prospects. They got dropped off in a parking lot.
Yeah. Let me take another call. Thanks, Trump Girl. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Let me take another call. Thanks, Trump Girl. Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, go ahead. This is Yul Harris. Now, he's going to be a critic of yours. I'm just a warning.
All right.
Go ahead.
Now, 2 questions. Mr. Rawls, are you going to release the names of those 5 people you picked out to start out with?
Yeah, everyone will be publicly nominated. They're not, I didn't pick all 5, by the way.
Well,
anyone can nominate whoever they want.
5. Now, also, you made a promise. I can't hear you.
Go ahead. I'll translate if I have to.
Okay. You made a promise that you had a plan. You wasn't going to raise taxes. Now, this assessment is terrible.
All right, all right, hold on. Let's explain to the audience what the assessment is.
Yeah.
This is kind of, as y'all walk through the door, they present this to y'all.
Yeah.
Explain in a minute or less what's going on.
Yeah, I think Mr. Harris has had this explained to him a few times before. I don't think he wants it to be explained to him.
Okay, but just for us.
So tax assessments, essentially the Commissioner of Revenue every so often has to go out and assess property based on data by law.
Yeah.
And this is not her fault or her office's fault. They have to do it based on a certain method. So all of Southern Virginia is growing, and the whole country is seeing an increase in real estate, but especially Southern Virginia, and including Martinsville. Martinsville has had an incredibly hot real estate market. So what ends up happening, and this is one of the key questions council will have to face, what ends up happening is you have all these homes that are now worth more than they used to be.
Like 30%.
Like more than that,
okay.
Double.
Okay.
Your assessment only went up 30%, but I'll give you a for instance.
Okay.
What do you do about a property that's assessed at $120,000 and sold it for $350,000? Mm-hmm. Think about that gap that the city is not capturing revenue on. Right. So we've had a lot of people making out like bandits throughout this whole thing, basically not paying the tax revenue on the big real estate profits they've been getting. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I know that for me, speaking for myself, and I'm sure speaking for other members of council, there will be an effort to decrease the tax percentage, the tax rate, to offset those assessments. But it's still going to be an interesting question, like, what do you do about that revenue?
But Mr. Harris looks at that as a tax increase. What would you say to him? I mean, he's having to take more out of his pocket.
If we were to lower the rate?
Well, I don't want to speak for you, but you're accusing him of this is all going to be a tax increase already, right?
Well, to me it is. Let me make this point. Yes, probably some of the properties did go up, but also Ted Malbanus auctioned off $8 million worth of property. It went for $2 million, which is 25 cents on the dollar. So why didn't that affect the neighborhood assessment? Because some of them houses in my area. Also, the second house up right of me, half the roof is caved in. Nobody wants to buy a house next to that.
Right.
You go down the street, the whole back end of the house is out. So nobody wants to buy a house next to that. My point is, too, that decreases the value of my property.
Yeah.
But it is a tax increase unless you lower the rate to make it revenue neutral. Because with this assessment and the increase on the electric bill, you're talking about a 50% increase in taxes. That is unconscionable. And like I say, you made a promise.
Well, all right.
Had a budget.
All right, let's let him talk. Let him talk.
Let's separate things. Electric rates don't have anything to do with taxes. Let's come back to that thing.
Okay.
The assessment rate, we won't even talk about that. I mean, we've started talking about it, but we won't set that for some time.
I think, right?
So if you have, I've received a lot of phone calls about this, as you might imagine. If you've got those situations going on in your neighborhood, I would go to the assessor's office and appeal and be like, whoa, wait a second. next door to me, I have a house with the roof caved in, and across the street, I've got this, that, and the other, and say, I want to appeal. I don't
And you
think
do that by what?
You can actually, they have a process. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
But if you call the Commissioner of Revenue, it'll say, dial 1 for this, and then I think you dial 2 for the assessor's office, and they have an actual appeal process.
Ruth, right?
Yeah, so you can ask the assessors, how do I actually appeal this? And I think that in the notice that you received, it actually has the written instructions of how you appeal and what the time frame is for doing all that.
And it says this is not a bill.
It does say this is not a bill, because it's not an increase yet. But also, and I've received other comments along the same lines, like on Chatham Road, where someone's like, well, I don't know how this is true, that my property could have gone up because I've got this home, and there's no way I'd ever be able to sell this thing, especially not for what you've assessed it at. I would go to the assessor's office. Even if the council wanted to help you with that, I mean, I'd be happy to get you in touch. I'd be happy to go talk to people with you. But I mean, that's a constitutional office. That's outside of our purview. We elect the Commissioner of Revenue, and you don't really get to boss them around.
Okay, Ural?
Well, I want to see this the tax rate go down to where it's revenue neutral, because you can't, no way about it, that is raising taxes one way or the other. I mean, if to say different is like Biden claiming he didn't have nothing to do with the gas price increase when he shut the pipeline down and closed all the energy production down. It's the same thing.
All right, the city council can have a say into what the rate is.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the political part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you're also responsible to make sure all the bills get paid.
Well, you like the issue I just said. How do we make sure that people haven't sold or who have been benefiting from increased values and sell them and make out like a bandit? The city doesn't capture any of that revenue.
Yeah.
It's a tricky question to solve for. It's going to take the whole council to talk it over, for sure.
All right.
Yeah. To be clear, so I will be voting for some sort of decrease.
Okay.
I suspect that will be a very popular opinion among council.
All right, but we also got this electric bill, and it said, well, it's not taxes, but it's still inflation. It's money out more in my pocket.
It is.
I mean,
it's a double whammy like crazy. I know.
Yeah. I mean, so that's, y'all got to weigh all that together, don't you?
You well, that one was pending in city government since June or July of last year.
We know they didn't talk about it because of the election.
That's what we were told, and the real.
Come on, I mean, that's what happened.
I could have taken this fine and taken all the flack for it, no problem.
Right.
I wish I could have had those 6 months back to research, because that's my strength, if you haven't noticed, is I'm a do your homework kind of guy.
Yeah.
If I could have had 6 months to research this thing and see what options we have, because now it's basically dropped on us. It's like, you basically got to do this now.
Yeah.
So, and I really don't like being in positions. It's part of the job. Sometimes you have to do things spur of the moment that you weren't prepped for. But this is one that we knew about, and we just weren't given the heads up about.
I heard the electric bill. You know, they were supposed to do something in June on that, and like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and they didn't. They just they tabled it because they knew during an election year you don't want to say rate increase.
I'm talking about electric bill right now.
Okay.
The assessments come at every so
2
often.
years. Yeah.
That one we knew. I mean, no one was like, okay, here comes the assessments, but everyone.
You didn't think 30%
coming. I had no idea.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was not top of brain for probably anybody.
Okay.
We've been running around trying to solve a lot of this other stuff.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. All right, but you hear Mr. Harris what he's saying? He's not happy about this.
Yeah, no one's going to be happy. I mean, I own property and I pay electric bills.
Right.
I mean,
I know you have another question for Aaron. Go ahead.
No, that's enough. I was main to. I'll give him another month or two. I've got 2 or 3 other things I'm going to hit him on in city council.
Okay, I got you. Now let me ask you. And let's be realistic. What is a good solution? Because you can always point fingers, but what's your solution?
My solution?
Yeah.
You cut the tax rate back where it's revenue neutral because of the promise.
Yeah, but I mean, the city is facing a 10% inflation too.
Mr. Jones made 2 promises. He wasn't going to raise taxes, and he was going to do something for the homeless. Now, that's where you attract people. When you say that, automatically you're saying, come on in.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. You on the air?
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
Back to back.
Sarcastic man.
Yeah. I come from a life experience where I've become extremely jaded towards politicians, and in my mind, you are guilty until proven innocent.
Wow. Go ahead.
So, that's my life experience.
Now, be nice.
I'm being nice. What have I said that wasn't nice? You calm down. You're stop being PR for Mr. Rawls here.
Get a hold of yourself.
Had enough of that. You're a reporter. You're supposed to be holding his feet to the fire.
All right. Well, what's your question?
Okay. What going forward with this budget process coming up that you're going to have to deal with? Anyhow, what's your biggest concern with that? And what do you plan on doing about eliminating some of this fat, inefficient, sloppy, wasteful duplication of services in this area?
He's referring to
the only state that has this system. And if it was such a good system, why is it duplicated all over the country? And it's ridiculous, and reversion was a way to deal with it. But anyhow, and I totally disagree with your portrayal of the city pointing a gun at the county and the county paying off all of Martinsville's problems. I'll stand by that opinion. But anyhow, I just want to know what the time frame is for your plan. And you have a structure and a plan, and you're going to hit the ground running. What are you going to do? How are you going to approach this problem of the duplication of services?
All right, let's let him answer.
The load of government that's on the backs of the taxpayers and the citizens of Martinsville.
All right, let's give him.
I think you're way too concerned about the county, and to remind you represent the city.
All right,
go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
All right, which one of those do I begin with?
Let's deal with.
Take your pick.
The services.
The last time we had this call, we talked. We had this exact same conversation.
Yeah.
And we mentioned when it comes to duplication of services, it's as if we've got two different groups of people tripping over each other to serve the same people when we don't. Mm-hmm. We have separate schools serving separate kids taught by separate teachers, right?
Okay.
So I've never found that argument makes any sense to me.
The administration would be duplication.
Sure. Well, and when it comes to reversion, and this is one of the reasons I don't think reversion got much popular support, where all the savings comes from is from schools. Yeah. Mostly administration. When you look at constitutionals and stuff, a lot of that's funded by the state. Some of them actually make us money.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to make
payroll.
I've never been able to make sense of that argument. To me, that's kind of like arguing, well, Alabama offers sewer and water, so why does Martinsville need to offer sewer and water? Like, there's a reason towns exist, cities exist, counties exist, states exist, nations exist. I just really have a tough time trying to understand the argument. Like, someone's got to provide the services.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Why does it have to be a duplication? Why can't we consolidate them and save some money?
He says he doesn't see a duplication.
But why is it a duplication? Martinsville is serving a completely different group of people. So why do Martinsville, how about Henry County and Patrick? Is it duplicative for each of those people to provide services to there?
I'm using the example that other states do not have those duplication of services, and their tax rates are a lot better for it.
No, I don't think that's true. Are you suggesting, for example, that like towns in other states don't have their own utilities and stuff like that?
No. I'm just talking about where we have a duplication. Aren't you of the school that you believe that less government is best government, and instead of duplicating everything, why do we have to have two?
We don't answer to Henry County.
Two different.
We're not answering to two governments.
All right. He says he doesn't answer to Henry County.
We don't deal with Henry County like that. I don't go answer to Sheriff Perry as a for instance. We have different people.
Okay.
Well, you're just like being obtuse. It's just a completely waste of money to duplicate the services the way it is now. You have what you were talking about. The administrative costs would be less. Well, that's your biggest expense is payroll.
Are we talking about for schools?
And you're saying if we reverted to a town that we would only save $1.2 million a year, and you kind of sneeze at that like that's nothing. Well, that's a substantial amount of money that over time,
Not when you're talking about hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions.
And also, when you're talking about that's the price that you pay for having your own schools, your own sheriff, your own offices. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. We can just chalk that up to being a disagreement.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it doesn't make any sense. Why does every other state, except for Virginia, have that where you have a county that it takes care of the schools?
All right, let me find something else y'all disagree on.
They have their own court system.
All right.
And the metropolitan areas will have their own police and fire department because it's a urban center. But out in the county, the county is the one that is over the schools and the court systems.
All right.
Now, you don't understand that?
I don't. I think maybe you might not have evaluated places outside of Martinsville. There are other towns and cities with their own school systems separate from the county.
Are you talking about in Virginia or in other states?
There's 2 in Virginia, and there are some in other states as well.
All right, you have another question for...
The vast majority of them aren't like that at all, and there's a reason. It's because it's bad government. It's bad structure.
All right, y'all disagree on this issue. What's another issue you'd like to talk to Aaron about briefly?
Well, I just want, that was my thing. So what services does he think that we can afford to eliminate, and how high are we going to raise the taxes to be able to finance the city?
All right.
I'm not sure I follow.
What things do you think we can cut?
Okay.
All right, and then what are we going to do?
Oh, is this a question saying how do I expect to balance the budget?
Yeah.
How about this? To protect people who we're talking with, I'm personally planning to, I'm only one member of council, personally planning not to cut any services. When you say cut services, I'm assuming we're talking about like trash pickups and police and stuff like that. That's not even on my radar whatsoever. And then taxing,
they all cost money.
Yeah, they do, but you know what? Even if you reverted, you still have to pay for both those things. They don't go into the county. Still have your own police force.
That's correct, but our taxes on the whole would be lower.
No, they would not. They most definitely would not.
That's already been demonstrated by several studies.
What study would that be?
I've seen one.
All right, Sarcastic Man, I know you have one more issue, and that is on the issue dealing with the...
Where is LC working? Has he got a job?
LC can answer that.
I think he's working for you. I know he's busting his behind.
Okay. He's all right.
Okay, all right. But the reversion, of course, got killed. But then the referendum, where people get a chance to vote. Sarcastic Man's concerned that he can't now vote on it.
Okay.
All right. What's your?
Yeah, we think we talked a little bit about this in the meetings. We had a run up to it. So, and I'd sent a pretty long email to someone who emailed with a similar question. I kind of broke down everything we talked through and thought through. So for me personally, I thought the best way to dig our way out of this was probably through a referendum.
Yeah.
I said that on an interview, and I had, and LC probably had the same. We had a lot of people call us with concerns about that, and I'll just touch on a couple of them real quick. I know we've been on this call for a while. The sword of reversion dangling over people's heads.
Right. I got you. Deputies,
teachers, et cetera, we're not going to be able to keep or hire them. Even departments that aren't
employees
directly impacted by reversion, it muddies the argument for people. So, for instance, man, we need a police so bad, and we need to get as many into the academy as we can.
So if you kept this dangling, it would be difficult.
You look through when you look into the area of Martinsville and you hear reversion, and you're like, you're giving up your charter, you're going to the county. Now we know living here that doesn't mean our police are going away, but someone just kind of scoping out the area might be like, well, that doesn't look like a place that's going very far.
You're not going to hire many people with that much question.
So that's.
But I didn't get to vote on it.
I know you didn't, but did you hear? He's giving you the reason.
Yeah, you did, and that was one of the reasons we were given is, hey, the election, the referendum, or I'm sorry, reversion was like the top issue, and look who won and look who lost.
Right.
So that was probably the number one issue.
All right, at least he gave you an answer. You might not like the answer, but
that's not satisfactory.
All right,
why?
That's to you. Now I'm going to go to the next caller. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hey, Charles.
Yeah.
I had first I wanted to thank Aaron for since they claim he's outsider for coming in here and saving the history of Martinsville High School and saving the school system itself, but since the other
the outsider comes to save the day, right?
I didn't do that. But
I want to thank him for saving. A lot of my friends are employed by the city, and they were really worried about their jobs. You know, some of them get ready to start new houses and buy new cars, and they didn't know what to do because of what's going on. So I think people forgot to thank LC and Aaron for what they did for the city. And I talked to Dan, I talked to LC, about the PSA thing, and I'm hoping that Aaron can, I don't know if he's allowed to, but maybe elaborate a little bit on the, you still, all this money still being spent for lawsuits from the county and the city. Henry County's spending money to fight it, city's spending money to try to sue the county, but does he think the possibility we can come up with some kind of truce, something we can work out?
Yeah, I talk to county people on a regular basis, and they say that's a big sting. That's a big block between y'all.
I'm working on it. Fact finding is difficult right now. I'll just put it that way. You'll appreciate this. If I'm going to try and work out a deal with anyone, I do not want to make enemies of anybody. I don't want to run my mouth off about things I'm not sure about. I'm trying to get my hands on all the documents I can to see what is actually going on here.
All the contracts and things?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and I do want to say we've received massive acclaim from the public. So I appreciate Ray saying that, but I don't feel like it's us against the world by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, I think we feel more empowered than we ever have.
All right. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for taking my call.
Mr. Ridgway, how you doing?
Well, Mr. Rawls, congratulations on your election victory and being voted in as vice mayor.
Thank you.
I will give you a word of warning. You're probably going to be finding out that this is kind of like the Twilight Zone, where you have people making arguments about such issues that really don't make any sense. I mean, if they don't like the overlap of government services in the Henry County or Martinsville, why don't they move to the state that they think that it's better and be happy?
Yeah, I don't want anyone to leave, so I'm not going to advocate for that. But I very much take your point. And to be honest with you, I struggle to make sense of the arguments. They just don't seem logical to me. I think I'm missing something on those arguments.
Well, it's like the reassessment issue for property tax. They've been citizens in this state for as many years as I have. They would know that it's a lawful duty to do that.
Yes.
Now, the amount I can argue about.
Yeah.
I think you need that argument. Too much of this, too little of the other.
Mm-hmm.
But don't blame the system for what it is because it's broken. That has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Well, I would argue I don't think it's broken. I think, if anything, assessments probably went up less than the actual value. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, my God. But, I mean, for some of these properties, they're selling for double or triple their assessed value. I don't know the system that they use. It's outside of like my realm of authority, but I definitely take your point.
Well, you don't think the people that are doing that are greedy, do you?
No, I sincerely don't. I know that it's a data-based approach, and it's one of those things you can't veer off the path with doing that stuff.
Well, I understand that too.
Yeah.
Having said that, I know that in one of your presentations before the election and you got elected would have been about facelifting and making better curb appeal for Martinsville and Henry County for what I know for a fact. I've been around this area for 70 years. If I go from the Smith River Bridge all the way up to Walmart on 220, Memorial Boulevard, Virginia Avenue, do you realize that most of those buildings have been there in part or parcel for almost 100 years?
Yeah.
It's sad that you have the dilapidated, not up-to-date facilities that would draw businesses in here and give it curb appeal. Not up-to-date.
I completely agree. I cannot remember. We have some feedback.
I don't know. I'll fix it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We were talking about some of the major corridors through which people would traverse Martinsville, basically, and we had the same concerns. And I used to tell this story about this couple who were moving here and drove through one of the corridors like you're talking about, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we need to turn around and get out of here." But once and I know how ironic it is, once you kind of get out of some of those things, you can start seeing the beauty of Martinsville. It's a beautiful place, and it's even things like I hear this a lot. You mentioned crossing over the Smith River. It's pretty rare that you don't see a locality taking advantage of a beautiful river like that. We don't really feature our river in our city much, do we?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Over the years, that river fed textile and manufacturing. And I know for a fact before I left as a contractor at DuPont, that those drains in that building dumped directly into the Smith River. There was nothing that was filtered out of it. And I know what the reason was, because when the EPA was brought online during the Nixon administration, do the numbers, because DuPont basically wrote the rules for it, and they did for OSHA too. And here's the thing. They got a grace period, so all they'd have to do is pay fines before they were required to get into compliance, which eventually caused the plant shut down. It was a dinosaur. Much like all the factories that were here, the dye houses and everything else, furniture, they got directly into the river.
We're running out of time. I appreciate you calling tonight. All right, let's talk about next Tuesday. Can you give us a preview of what might be coming up?
I think the agenda will be published
Friday.
reasonably soon.
Yeah, soon,
it's not. There's going to be some interesting stuff on there, but it won't be like the first meeting. The first meeting was kind of an unfortunate whirlwind because we knew reversion was going to be top, and we knew that was going to be a big story. The homeless thing, whatever you want to call it, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right term is because it's more than that. That was a thing that rapidly came up.
All
so
right.
that led to like a pretty intense meeting.
You told me you felt like the last 3 or 4 days that you hadn't seen many homeless people in town.
So
you think things are working?
Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Oh, I think putting light on this has definitely helped. It's a little bit back. And when I say a little bit back, this is people in the commercial buildings looking out of their windows or coming out of their cars and seeing people come through. And I don't know if this was super recent, but it was reasonably recent. One of the people I just met with said they saw a lady going through trying to open up all the cars and that sort of stuff. But I noticed fewer people.
That happens at Walmart.
Yeah. So whereas you might see going down May Street 15 to 20 people, I've seen like 4 today.
All right.
So and like I had mentioned earlier, you see these groups coming and going, and in my brain I'm wondering who's doing the transporting for all of this. Like what's the end game?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's getting better, and I knew it would by getting more light on it.
Gotcha. You're on the air. Go ahead. Brief. Be brief, please.
Yes. I'm just wondering about if we will ever find out what the COVID relief money was spent on.
Okay, all right. That's a good question.
ARPA money?
Yeah.
There's a list on the city's Facebook site. So I don't think I don't think it was managed in the best way. Don't get me wrong.
How much money we got left?
Not much.
They spent all that in 15 million?
Yeah, I think if you include some infrastructure repairs to a particular sewer line, we've got like 2-something million left.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did it go? That's one of your issues, isn't it?
Topic
crazy money
for
goes.
Another day. I kind of brought it up at the council meeting.
I mean, you got almost like a standing ovation when you said, we're spending our money on baseball players.
I don't want to get cheap points, and rile up crowds over stuff like that. But my God, man, yeah.
But that one seemed to resonate.
You can probably feel the disappointment that I've got for that. Yeah.
So you think when you look at the budget, it could easily be managed with a little shaking around, right?
Oh, easily? No, this is going to be very hard. But can it be done? Yeah. And
all right.
Here's the deal: this is a systemic issue. For a long time, we've been finding other means to balance the budget, whether it's the lucrative utilities that we sell, like water, sewer, whether it's been ARPA money in the last year. We had the conversation today, and I shared with the city manager. I want to keep those very private so he can always trust me and I can always trust him. But I will say what I said, which is that I'm really not willing to kick this can down the road and use ARPA money again to balance the budget, because I'll be right back here next year having the same conversation. I just want to get it done.
That kind of a rule, no ARPA money?
For me, it is.
Right.
I'm one of 5 guys. I want to make sure people understand that.
Yeah.
So it's not all up to me.
Yeah.
But that's my stance: is no, balance it with what we've got.
How about we're going to hear about housing? Is that on your agenda?
We are hustling on that.
Can you tease me a little bit?
Yeah, well, giving credit where credit's due. The city's got a lot of projects in the works. Some of them, one of them I'm still really concerned about it.
BB&T building.
It's not throwing shade at developers. It's not throwing shade at the people who worked hard at the city. It's just, man, that's a make or break deal for Uptown.
We got one in Winn-Dixie?
Yeah, that one could be great.
Yeah.
For all I know, yeah. Now, we've got some others. We're working with some property owners uptown who are recognizing it's kind of now or never for Martinsville, and who have been reaching out and saying, we want to be part of the solution. We've been kind of waiting for some leadership to show up.
When are we going to see something?
Actually built. You're going to probably see the Winn-Dixie stuff reasonably soon. Yeah, because the contract's already done. I think they've already started some preliminary work.
Right.
BB&T, I would assume you'd start seeing some work with this year at some point.
Right.
The projects that I'm going through shopping around now to developers, I would be surprised if they even get preliminary stuff done in 2023. 'Cause some of these are ginormous.
Because you told me we need to have at least 500 houses.
Yesterday.
500.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need them right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And one of the things we're doing so that people know, they might find this interesting, I want to do a lot of mixed income model for a lot of reasons. One is it makes financing and state and other aid easier to get. It actually helps our population. It also prevents kind of like isolation of particular income groups where you start funneling or supporting all your services over in like the rich, whatever thing you built. So if you keep it mixed income, you're actually helping everyone in the area. You're getting some more money. You're distributing services equitably among people, and also, frankly, just is going to make a better mix of the community for Martinsville. Yeah.
But we're going to have to expect to pay $800 to $900 a month if we do rent, right? And that going?
I don't know.
What do you think where's that ballpark?
Well, for instance, for BB&T, I'd heard. I think I got this right. 600 to 900 is what they were looking for.
Right.
A rent under 600, I don't know how feasible that is on a build.
Right.
That seems like a challenge to me.
Yeah.
Without some sort of program subsidizing it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. But that's one thing I think people have to get a little used to, paying a little bit more rent.
Well, yeah, and if you've been keeping up with what's gone on during COVID, I mean, landlords kind of arbitrarily raised rent like $200. They're like, okay, now it was 500, now it's 700.
Right.
One of the things that bringing more housing here does is it provides some competition, right? So right now, if you want to go rent somewhere, there's no options for you. There's a wait list. So landlords can basically charge whatever they want. If we have some competition, that will help things a little bit. I think prices might ease a bit. I certainly hope so.
All right. You told me to keep you accountable.
Yes.
All right.
See you taking notes.
Yeah. Can I take a wish list for this year? I want at the end of the year. So did we make progress?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, let's put this thing up front because it kind of derailed everything else we were working on.
Okay.
Whatever you want to label the Uptown issue.
Okay.
That being resolved.
We'll call it the issue.
The issue.
Okay. All right.
I hate to say it homeless because I do not want to frame this as homeless good or bad because that's not it.
It needed looking at.
It needed whatever is going on in the space needed looking at for sure.
Okay.
Balanced budget.
Budget. Is that your biggest one? Because that's what all this reversion talk and fuss is about.
Probably one of the most important ones.
Yeah.
And then I want to sign probably 2 significant deals. When I say significant, I mean a huge former textile building or a new development of homes.
Okay.
Not
new homes. Okay.
Yeah. I would love to see new builds of homes. I think that'd be a great signal for Martinsville too.
Homes or apartments?
Homes. I want to see both.
Okay.
But I want to see new homes built.
Right.
I think that'd be awesome.
Because we hadn't had that many built.
It would be.
What, like just one last year or something?
It would be something people have not seen in
what area of town can we build homes?
I don't want to say because I don't want to scare off the developer, but middle of Martinsville.
Middle of Martinsville. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I meant to say I don't want to scare off any property owners.
Okay.
Right now, people are dealing in good faith, and every time I open my mouth, I just don't want to make sure I don't scare anyone off or say anyone's promised to do something.
Right.
Everything is, until it's built and done, everything's in the air.
Right.
I will tell you this though, the way conversations have gone with people, as for instance, like consultants, and consultants ask you questions like, well, do you want to pay me hourly or do you want me to take a percentage and be a partner? When people ask you to be a partner, that means they believe in your project, and that's a very good sign.
Right.
So we've been having conversations of people who are excited and know that this is going to work out.
Right.
So I want to see some new homes, the deal in place for new homes.
Right.
However you say that.
Did you see the county deal from the governor where they got $22 million?
That's awesome. And a former mayor took me to lunch, and I need to do some shout outs for all the amazing people who've been helping me. Sheriff Draper has been the absolute man, helping me get introduced to people and stuff like that. The former mayor I met with, I think he'd be fine with me using his name, but I won't just because I didn't ask him. He sat down and kind of showed me, he's a budget guru, kind of showed me where we've been and where the county has been over time. And I mean, the county is doing an awesome job. And that's kind of going all the way back to my infant level reversion discussions is like, they're doing their thing. They're rocking it. Like, why are we worried about what's going on in the county? We need to put our focus back on us and start making our own progress like that.
Yeah.
That's where I wanted to go.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, one more. Give me one more.
How many do we have there?
1, 2, 3, 4. We got the issue, the homeless issue, we want the budget.
I want good relationship with some people in the county. Is that a fair one to check on?
Yeah.
Do you have ways of measuring that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. County relationships.
County relations. You want to work on that?
And I really believe that is not, I think a lot of people might hear that and say, okay, that means that they make deals for us that benefit us.
I mean, the thing I hear is Eric Mundy's gone. It's a lot easier already.
Yeah, I don't want people in the county to think that means, oh, I'm coming to deal and I expect a good deal or else. I'm trying to say is I want to leave you alone. If we find something that's good for Southern Virginia, for our community, let's go at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, I'm going to go with this one more time. I think this is important. The issue
You kind of
uptown.
put me on the spot with these 5, but they're pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah,
issue. You said the budget was the most important. You told me that.
for the city, for the
Yeah.
management of the city, that's
Yeah,
critical.
right.
Yes.
You want two housing deals.
Yep.
And homes.
New built homes.
And then we want a better relationship with the county.
Yep. And that can be relationships plural. That can be with the board, it can be with administration, that can be with PSA.
Right.
Some of these have already happened and I know that they're going better.
Right.
We could add to that maybe just relationships in general. So
Right. The thing that seems so weird to me, this will be my last thing, that was so weird with the sewage thing is the county's buying sewage from the city, I think.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're a customer.
Right.
And we don't want to buy your pipes.
Right. This is why I've asked for the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean that's their problem.
I need to see what it says
Yeah.
because we're all just having fun here talking. I haven't seen anything.
Right.
There's some say in there that there's a clause or some sort of expectation that they'll pay for some repair. So the question could be how much, or there might not be such a clause at all. I don't know.
Right.
And so that's what I need to find out.
But it's like to me, you want to keep them as a customer.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Right. We really cannot go around ticking off everybody we need to be friends with.
Right.
Yeah.
I know y'all. I think the county y'all sell water to Pennsylvania County. There's all kind of things going on. So you got to keep that money coming in. That's income.
Yep. And here's the thing: is someone may even end up being on the right who gets away with it, or the vice versa, or whatever. To me, I don't care. This stuff is beneath where Martinsville needs to be focusing.
Yeah.
We need to be focusing on bigger things. I'm really not going to let my time be dragged out over stuff like that.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, it's up and down. 90% of the time, I see why people get into this and don't ever get out. Because if you're a dude like me who likes to new challenges, new problems, solving it, making a difference, there's no other space where you can operate like this. None. But there are days where you make a misstep or someone posts something mean and you spend like a whole day evaluating your whole life. Like, A, what did I do wrong? Why did I do this? What do I need to do? What do I need to evaluate about myself? But sometimes it's also, if I'm being completely honest with you, it's like, you know what? Maybe I should let people go back to the former government and see how it goes. I've never actually thought that, but I can feel why people will start feeling that stress of like, why did I pull myself into this? And we'll part with this. This is a good conclusion. I love running my businesses. I like building businesses. There's nothing I gain by doing this. I lose a lot. It's going to be very easy for me to wake up one morning and be like, why did I do this to myself? You know? We're doing it, and it's the same for LC. We're doing it because people we respect ask us to in our community. And you know, man, when I go to church or something, when I have people hug me and come up and shake my hand and stuff, like, you know that those were the people you were doing it for, and you can't let them down. And it's that sense of letting people down that pushes you just like to do it 40 or 50 hours a week, even when you're already working another job 40 or 50 hours a week.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing I do like about you is you're optimistic.
And I still am, and I always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think our best days are coming?
Oh my God. Well, best days, I don't know, because think about our history.
Okay.
I said during the campaign, I don't think our best days have to be behind us, and I think that's true. But do I think we'll be like the mega capital of the world of like text tools or something again? I don't know. No, I think it'll look different. But I certainly think that what we've had for the last few decades is not what our future is.
We're in the middle
of
the East Coast.
Oh, we have so many opportunities.
Yeah, right. All right.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
in the middle of the East Coast, and we see the world changing.
Yep.
I mean, AI is coming.
Yep. Have you seen immigration patterns out of places like Nova and the West Coast? I mean, that freaks people out a little bit, like bringing people in and kind of changing the dynamic of your culture. But for the most part, the people I've been meeting, they chose Martinsville because of its culture, not for other reasons, and then hope to change the culture later, if that makes sense.
During the Christmas parade, our Crown, our sponsor.
Yeah.
I went out and saw them. They have 50 trucks wrapped around that building every day. There's such a shortage on aluminum cans right now. They're filling that void.
Yep.
We got them operating in a year.
Yeah.
That deal came together in 2 months.
Yeah.
It happened right in Henry County.
Yep.
Dr. Godwin decided to put the training center in the middle, and that's what they loved.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our best days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our good thing.
And think about this: we are just getting started.
Right.
And there's a concept known as critical mass, which is You build and you build and you build, and the next thing you know, you've built to a point where just everything takes care of itself.
Right.
And we will get there. And when I say take care of itself, people will start saying like, oh, well, now that we've got XYZ, just like the example you gave, this property looks like something I could do something with.
Right.
And you start having people just clamoring to get in over each other to get
And the
involved in the
governor
action.
giving us $22 million, I think that's the crown achievement.
I mean, that's a big deal. I wish Martinsville had gotten some,
Right.
being a Martinsville City Council
Y'all didn't get
person.
none, did you?
But hey, what helps the county?
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them. I want to aspire to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's no sense in anybody being petty about it. But no, so Martinsville didn't get any, but that doesn't mean it won't help Martinsville.
Right.
And I hope that we can help them make the most of that money. So hopefully we're bringing more people in here. Martinsville's got a really good culture. It's underrated. With things like we've got Piedmont arts, culture in general. We've got like a brewery coming uptown, I believe, really soon.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of cool new things popping up. People like to be around spaces like that.
Yeah.
Our uptown is absolutely beautiful. I've been through tons across the country.
Right.
Ours is hard to beat.
Right.
Does it need a little bit of love and fix up? Yeah, but I mean, it's already like a really cool looking
Some
uptown.
character.
Yeah.
Right,
A little,
yeah.
little bit of love, a little bit
Yeah.
of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. All right. Well, I want to ask you, will you come about every 2 months and talk to us?
I'll come as often as you want.
Okay.
I told you, I just don't ever want to get pulled into some Jerry Springer type stuff.
Have we done it?
You have never, and I've never suspected that you would. That's just
Yeah.
always going to be my barometer. Is I'll come here and I'll be honest and I'll lay it out. If people want to give me a hard time about it later, that's fine. I just don't want to get it put into a situation where I start to go, as like I've said before, make the city look like we're a circus. I don't
got
ever
you.
want to participate in anything like
I
that.
got you. I get that.
Yeah.
But I like to ask the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. Hey,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
like it. It helps me calibrate. You know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So in other
Yeah.
words, it's like, that's the difference in us and everybody else. Everybody else is trying to kiss everybody's ass. I'm trying to shake it a little bit.
Yeah, and it needed to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
You shook up reversion pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I get a lot of criticism for that, but I thought it needed to be done.
Well, I will just tell you, I met with some, let's just say, senior leaders of education, and
Yeah.
they were like, to the day that thing ended, we had no idea what was going on.
Right.
And I mean, if they didn't know what was going on,
Right.
I had written in my email, that long email I told you about to my constituent, this was my analogy. Reversion was not ready to come out of the oven. That thing has not even thawed yet.
Right.
It was nowhere near ready to go.
Right.
Yeah.
One last thing. Eric Mundy leaving. I think he saw the writing on the wall. I thought he did that well. You know what I'm saying? In other words, he made it cleaner for y'all. Yeah. But I mean,
I wish it hadn't been done in that weird way. That was a very risky,
was that political?
That was a very risky thing to do for the city, which
Yeah.
is say we're going to terminate someone based on rumors. But then what we were told is he kind of wanted to resign and go do
Yeah.
his own thing. So
Right.
which thing was it, and why not do it the proper way?
Well, but he was attached to reversion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he kind of had to kind of die on his sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, probably different time, because I know you're tight on time.
Yeah.
I'd love to walk through why I don't think school consolidation would be a byproduct of reversion. I truly don't think that would have happened.
Right.
Then the whole thing we would have gone through, and the current and former city administration would not have even gotten the one thing they truly wanted out of reversion.
And you've been talking with the school system, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which we were told you couldn't talk to them.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think that they were wanting to do some sort of closed door deal. And one thing you got to appreciate, and we respect this, LC and I,
Yeah.
clearly there's some sort of block to an extent. We do not agree on everything. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But Tammy, LC, and I do not meet and talk because there are rules against doing that. And I think the school board felt like they were trying to get put into a position where they had to illegally meet.
Right.
I don't know if that was for sure the case. I think someone got that impression.
Yeah.
You can meet with essentially 2 or fewer people in our case.
Right.
You can't have this big, everyone come, close all the doors, hash things out. You've got to go public.
Yeah.
FOIA. You have to be accountable to your public. And you might understand why I've taken some issue with calls of transparency from certain people who have tried to orchestrate stuff like that. I mean, at least I pick professionals that I don't think anyone will be able to say, oh, geez, that wasn't a great pick. They'll be nominated publicly. They'll be voted on publicly. The establishment of the commission will be done publicly. This is all going to be done in the open. If you want to argue it was done rapidly or something, hey, that's a totally reasonable point. I get it. We were trying to respond to an emergency. But some of this stuff where it's like we can only talk about these things in private and the public can't know. Think about the fact that for reversion, the memorandum of understanding was sealed. Like we weren't allowed to see it. Remember when Ruth tried to provide some clarifying documents?
Yeah.
That she had essentially that had to be leaked to the press to get that out to people.
Right.
I mean,
Are you having any trouble dealing with the current government?
not that I talk about publicly, not that I think anyone's doing poorly. I think that
They're just not
I
used to it.
think I'm unique for what they've been dealing with. And so someone who wants to actually come in and look at contracts and
Right.
documentation and all
Right.
that, I think is not something that people are used to.
Right.
I've had a wonderful time with the vast majority of people in the city government. And I'm very thankful for Leon. He's got it's 40 years of experience sitting in that chair
Right.
that we can look at and be like, okay,
Is he going to step down soon? Or is that,
I don't know. I had been told by a former council member or current council member that he was going to. So, and at that time, I was like, "Who am I to question a council member?"
Right.
But he said no, and I'm happy he's there.
Right.
That's a ton of knowledge in that brain, and he's a consummate professional.
Right.
If you've ever worked with him,
Yeah.
he's too professional to do.
He avoids controversy. I know that.
That's what I'm saying. Is he's too professional to get involved in some of the things that you might be reporting on, or that we might see and be like, "Oh Lord, what is this?"
Right.
That's my sense of things so far.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you think of Chad's performance at first city council?
Everyone should be able to voice what they want to do as strongly as they want, so
Right.
long as it's related to city business. And
Right. Gotcha.
as far as I know, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think you even appreciated in the middle of it that night.
Yeah, I have no gripes with like I said, I like conflict. I think that's how we get somewhere.
Right.
Do I want every meeting to be like a conflict? And good info to have is like, so if you go to Virginia Municipal League trainings and stuff, and this is part of that advice I told you about at the very start of the call, people want to see a council that when it goes out to the public, they're all on the same page, they'll vote accordingly. And I just look at that and I'm like,
Yeah.
where does that get anybody?
Yeah.
So what happens when you have, let's just use Mr. Martin as an example, on reversion.
Yeah.
Very different point of view than I have.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile those with a go along, get along attitude?
Mm-hmm.
You got to present your cases and you got to let the people speak.
Right.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, I had no concerns with that. My suspicion would be former council members, maybe of an, let's say more veteran or more mature stance would have been like, oh, we don't like how this looks.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I don't think they're wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying for this moment, I think Martinsville needs a slightly different council.
And we should expect a few more sparks, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hot topics coming up. There's
Right.
a lot of hard decisions coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I can sense this assessment and the electric bill are going to be the two hardest ones.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what to do about the electric bill.
All right.
That's a bummer. I wish I had more time to research
Well, AP
that.
just jacked theirs up like
Well,
crazy.
so one of the things I did do, and thank gosh for Leon, he helped us kind of understand the workings of this. Martinsville is not jacking up your rate. We are getting our rate jacked up by the people who actually transmit the power to us. And it's like, it's significantly jacked up.
Right.
And to your point, AEP is still higher than Martinsville. And if you look across this nationally, everyone's getting jacked up.
Right.
So, I mean, I can only be so upset. We did have a conversation today about, and the city is being strategic, I'm not saying anyone's not, but about really, really emphasizing our future outlook on how we procure energy. And so my stance is kind of, I want to be aware of every single possibility out there. So let's say the market, right now everything's high. Let's say the market
Right.
goes to a reasonable point. We're ready. We know what options we like. We know what's out there. When a price point comes along that we like, we grab it.
Right.
So I want to try and do some more things that maybe we have more control over.
How about all these solar farms in Axton that we can we
I don't
find
know.
a way to grab some power from there?
I have
Wind,
no idea.
possible wind. We keep hearing about wind.
The thing about green energy right this second is it's not quite there efficiency-wise. So if your citizenry is worried about a jack up in electric rates, I don't know that like wind is the place you want to go.
Right.
Do I want that to be a solution? And do I think solar is a solution?
Yeah.
I do, and solar is moving fast. I mean, solar is getting to the point where it's going to be viable, I think, in my lifetime.
Does that AMP Ohio deal, in that contract, do we have to buy all of our power from them?
You know, I don't know. So I've been reading a lot about that because that's one of the most controversial things that's ever happened.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to look back at how that happened, and I hate to even weigh in, even to the credit of someone. That decision at that point in time was probably a very hard decision. You know, I think that was incredibly long term. And if we were going to dial in a term like that, we should have had prices set. I mean, that's one of the benefits of signing a long term is you know what your price is going to be for a certain amount of time.
Right.
And maybe that was done to an extent. I'm completely uninformed on that level of particular.
Right.
I'm just saying I think that I, like a lot of people, have been disappointed at how that's turned out. And I was reading back at old council debates, and I was reading that this was a hot topic even back then. And, I was just trying to suss out what in the world was this deal and what was going wrong. And it's one of those things, like I mentioned, I've been having a little bit of a tough time getting documentation. That might be one that takes me a minute to figure out.
That's one thing. Danny Turner was right on the money on that power deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You didn't do any commercials.
I know, because you're so interesting.
Thank you.
All right. But, well, I mean, I think UNLC and Tammy are the story of the year right now. We're all watching, and we know there's going to be some bumps, but it is interesting. I can't wait for next Tuesday night's meeting. Can you feel my excitement? It's like, I mean,
you're
I'm a reporter.
You're going to be disappointed.
I am?
It's going to be a lot less exciting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
city business is supposed to be boring. For all those very good stewards of local government, I have no intention of making this thing an electric event. I don't want
Sarcastic Man says y'all are making it a TV show.
Yeah, it's been one meeting. Let's establish at least a pattern before we say that. We want to get to city business. That first meeting was going to be electric. There's no way around it.
Well, but you could make it exciting by giving us good things to look forward to.
Yeah, we want to do that.
Yeah.
We want to do the business of the city and kind of just get us going on the right track, and we're trying to do it without too much spectacle.
Right.
Yeah.
So homes, we need some more houses.
Yeah. Now we can throw some parties for that when they get announced if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: if people out there are watching the show, if they have some ideas, okay to contact you?
Yeah, email me, call me, Facebook message me.
Okay.
Facebook Messenger is just like a godsend for me because I can actually track who and have a way to get right back to them. I will open up my phone after this. I'll probably have like 14 voicemails, and it gets tough to track, and especially when someone doesn't pick up when I call back, and I have to write down the name and the number. And but yes, people already do. You don't. Please come to me if you got anything at all.
I'm gonna put this in my vault and bring it out at the end of the year.
I hope it doesn't embarrass me later. I'm gonna do my best.
Okay. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us.